Hello and welcome back to From the Top, the Metacritic list podcast, I suppose, that where we count down the greatest games of all time according to Metacritic. This week we're on number 8, which is Red Dead Redemption 2, specifically the Xbox One version, which has a 97 Metacritic score. Red Dead Redemption 2 was produced by Rockstar Games and released on October 26, 2018. So for those of you that don't know, it's obviously a sequel to Red Dead Redemption 1, and it's a Western game, or a game set in kind of Western America in 1899, if I'm not mistaken. That's the year.
Wow, good remembering.
Well, I think so. But there is a lot of a particular kind of person in this game, which
what do you mean by that, Sean?
I'm only going to say the word once, and then we're going to try.
Can't wait to hear this.
We're going to try our best. We're going to try our best to not mention it again throughout the podcast, and that is cowboys.
So we're trying not to say.
We're trying not to say that for the rest of the podcast.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
Personal challenge.
Yeah, I like how you're putting this out like, oh, did you just come up with that, Sean? Even though Michael told me to say that before the start of the podcast.
Jesus,
right?
ruined the fucking,
ruined the joke.
The making of here.
Oh, by the way, Sean, technically this is a prequel, not a sequel. Just to
I was gonna mention that actually later, Stephen.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, how did this game come about, really? Obviously, Red Dead Redemption 1 came out in 2010 by Rockstar Games. But previous to that, there was also a game called Red Dead Revolver, which was released by Rockstar Games in 2004. And even though they're both like Western-themed games, they're not fully connected, really. Rockstar Games kind of states Red Dead Redemption as being a spiritual successor to Red Dead Revolver. Also, Red Dead Revolver was like a first-person shooter kind of Western game.
It was third person.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was first.
No, it's interesting thing about Red Dead Revolver was that was initially going to be published by Capcom.
Yeah, they got funding from Capcom for it, actually.
And I can't remember the name of the studio, and they were developing it, but Capcom it wasn't going well, the development. And I think Rockstar bought some of Capcom's smaller studios, and Red Dead Revolver was one of the games they got, so they just finished it. And they were more interested in the IP than the actual game. So obviously they wanted to develop their own Western game, and they're like, oh, this is a great sort of starting point for us as a spiritual sequel to this game.
Yeah.
But, like, not many, well, it's pretty irrelevant, the first game, in a way, because like nobody thinks of this as a trilogy.
No. But they do call it a series, like a part of the series almost, even though it's like not really related. I think if I'm not mistaken, some characters from Red Dead Revolver do make it into Red Dead Redemption, but only smaller characters. But again, please at me in the comments if that's wrong. My research is really showing here. But anyway, so kind of moving into Red Dead Redemption 2, we can't really talk about this game without talking about its prequel, which is a bit confusing because Red Dead Redemption 2 is actually set before the events of Red Dead Redemption 1, even though it's called Red Dead Redemption 2. So it's a prequel in all but name, I suppose. I kind of want to get into a bit of a comparison between the two games. So personally, I haven't completed Red Dead Redemption 2, although I am a good bit through it. Michael and Steve, I think, have both completed it, so you guys can probably talk more on this. So Red Dead Redemption 2, you play as Arthur Morgan, and he is a member of Dutch's gang, which John Marston is also a member of. And John Marston is the character you play as in the first game. And basically, for anyone who doesn't know the story of the first game, roughly, John Marston is kind of blackmailed by the government to hunt down members of his former gang in order to save his family and himself from prison, I guess, isn't it?
He's been threatened, and like it's sort of like, you get these guys or we're going to get you.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
John, by the events of Red Dead 1, is sort of settled down in a way, and he isn't the gunslinger he was. So.
Exactly, he had left the gang and everything.
So as much as this is the story of Arthur, it's also like John's progression and how he ended up in the place he was by the beginning of Red Dead 1, I guess.
Totally, and that's one thing I actually really like about the second game, is that at first I wasn't a fan of Arthur Morgan, but he has definitely grown on me. And one thing I like is that he's not mentioned at all in the first game as being a member of Dutch's gang, but they've like shoehorned him in here almost seamlessly in a way. But he also kind of acts as like, even though playing as Arthur, you're very much involved in all the missions and stuff, it almost feels a bit like a fly on the wall as well, observing Dutch's gang and how they got to be where they are in the first game, if you get me. So I did kind of like that. Again, haven't played the game, so you guys can probably add a lot more to this than I have. But I'm just gonna open. I have more to say on this, but I'm just gonna open it out to you guys now and ask.
About time.
Sorry, yeah, I did ramble a bit there, but no, I just want to see, because you guys have both completed the game, and I'm guessing you've played the first one as well. What's your feeling on the story, and maybe comparing it to the first game as well? What's its like pros and cons, really? Just narrative based.
Do you want to go first, Steve, or will I? Or
yeah, I probably won't have as much to say as you because you're more invested in this. But yeah, it's funny what you say there, Sean, about how you didn't warm up to Arthur, because I had the exact same thing. I didn't like him that much as a character to start off, but like you, he grew on me, and I really started to like him towards the end. I think the story itself, it's really well told, like amazingly well told. Like the production values are insane, and you can see a lot of effort went into the actual structure of the story. But I do think it's kind of strange that despite that, they still managed to fuck up the tempo a little bit at times. It's got one of the worst beginnings of any video game I've ever played.
Yeah, that's so weird, because sorry to jump in, Grand Theft Auto 5 does something similar.
The same thing, yeah.
In that you start in a snowy section before you can get into the open world, and in Grand Theft Auto 5 it's not quite as long, but it's somewhat similar. And I know when I was playing it, not just from a story perspective, but I just wanted to get out into the open world, and it's like, it's a good few hours before you can do that.
Yeah, it's a good, I think when I was playing it, like I was speeding through it, not doing any side quests or anything, but I think it still took me 2 hours to get to the main thing, which is a long time to be like sitting there playing a game and thinking, this isn't great, you know, like, because games should hook you straight away. Like some games only are 2 hours long, so like imagine like you're playing this like for 2 hours and thinking like, this isn't good, I'm not enjoying this. That's a risky move.
It's like that classic thing that they say about Final Fantasy 13. It really gets good at hour 20, so you have to put in the time, and then it gets open. Sorry, Sean, you were going to say something.
No, I just was going to say, like, compared to GTA 5, I do think it made more sense in Red Dead Redemption 2 because you know, they're like escaping and traveling across the country kind of thing. So it kind of made more sense to me, that, and it almost starts out like in a linear fashion until you get to the open part. But whereas in GTA 5, you're in a place that isn't even on the map, the main map, and it's just a bank job, isn't it?
It's just setting the stage for the conflicts that'll come up later in the...
Yeah.
And I guess Red Dead does it as well. Like, what I feel like they were trying to do with the intro was, let's have this constrained bit where we can teach mechanics, you get introduced to characters, and then it's going to be, wow, amazing when you get out into the open world, like, you know, Fallout 3 did it. But the beginning of Fallout 3 sucks a bit as well, because like you have to do all these tutorials and stuff, and it's very constrained.
To be fair, a lot of open world games do this kind of thing.
They do, in fairness,
And
I think that's kind of an issue with like a lot of open world games anyway. There might be some people out there who have no problem with it, but for me, like, I actually warmed up to this game a lot. I think I said in the previous episode, I kind of implied that I hated the game. I definitely warmed to it after a while. It's actually a really good game. It's just this bit in particular I take issue with, and they could have solved a lot of this problem by just taking out a lot of the mechanics. I know this is something that some people will say, no, that's the whole point of it, is how much there is to do. But there's so many stupid, pointless things. Like, at any point in this game, after they taught you how to fix your wagon wheel or put a saddle on a horse, did you guys ever do it again?
Holy shit, I actually completely forgot
so.
those things existed.
Yeah, exactly.
I 100% forgot those things existed. Well, I will... Okay, I'm gonna come back to that point because I think I do agree with you, but I'd sort of argue in the game's favor to a certain extent about those mechanics.
You definitely can.
But just to circle back to the story, just so we're on that a bit more. I had the same feeling about Arthur at the beginning because you're used to John, and I like that they have pretty different personalities in a way. And Arthur doesn't give you a lot at the beginning. Like, he seems pretty one note, and he's just like a guy who does things for Dutch. But as the game progresses, he does reveal some more layers, and it's a story of him sort of reconciling what he's doing and a world that's changing around him. And that's done really beautifully in the game. And the voice performance is amazing. It's definitely one of my favorite performances in the game. Roger Clark, sorry, is the actor's name. And he won loads of awards throughout the year it was released. Rightly so, I think. But Arthur was my favorite thing about the game, I think. The story, I think Steve hit the nail on the head. The story has a pacing problem. Definitely. And that's as a result of the game itself just being so long and having to cover so much ground and justify so many characters.
I think one thing I will get onto just a bit later is the gameplay mechanics and stuff, because I think that feeds into the story length a little bit as well, because they're kind of intertwined. But I just wanted to say, personally, like, now, again, this is me speaking, only played halfway through the game, but I still prefer John Marston and the first game, because I just really liked how it was kind of like the story there. It was kind of cliche, but also a bit unique, because I just, he's being blackmailed in a way into doing it's almost like a revenge story, but he's being blackmailed into it, so
it's got that tension
he doesn't want to be doing this, but he's forced to and stuff. And I don't know, like, a lot of this maybe could be nostalgia, but as well the fact that, like, when I feel like Red Dead Redemption 1 was like so much more groundbreaking when it released compared to the second game, because like a lot has happened in terms of graphics and like narrative in games has really stepped up in between those two releases, But but saying that, I recently got back into the second game, and I'm playing through it, and I am liking it more. And like I said, I've come around to Arthur still a lot more, and I'm sure down the line maybe my opinions might change. We'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
It's a great story. Just one thing I just want to see if you guys agree with, like, because like you, Sean, I prefer the first game. The reason being, though, is I think the story in 2 is better, but the first game is just paced better.
Yeah.
Would you say that's accurate?
I think so. Okay, so it's kind of hard for me to say as well, because I'm only halfway through the second, but I suppose up till now it feels like I've been in the same couple of areas for ages. Do you know what I mean? Where
I think you've hit the nail on the head, because 1 would constantly bring you to a new area.
Exactly,
like you go to Mexico, you go to wherever, and
you keep going south in the map, and it progressively like opens up the map like in a really good timely fashion.
And you're doing new things as well. Like you take part in the revolution in Mexico, and then you're building up to, in the first part, you're like all the missions are geared towards assaulting that base and all in the first game, whereas I feel like the second game, it has like those heists and all that you build up towards, but a lot of it's just like, oh, we ran out of town, so we have to set up a new camp, and now we're just going to do some local jobs, and it feels like it resets every few hours, and it starts again.
That's exactly it.
That's a bit repetitive, I find.
I feel like the first game is like your typical spaghetti western. It's like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Whereas I feel like the second one is like a box set of Little House on the Prairie. It's like
maybe Deadwood, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, well, whatever. But like, it does feel like so much bigger. But like, again, it's just the pacing suffers because of that. But the story is good. Like, and Arthur Morgan definitely helps that. Like, little things, like tiny nuances do incredible things in this. Like, one thing I absolutely loved, and I'm going to let you continue, just the last thing I'm going to say is I loved his relationship with Mary, you know, the girl who he had some kind of previous relationship with.
Yeah, that's really good.
I love that because it just paints his personality like right on the wall. It's like kind of tragic, kind of melancholy, little bits of hope there. Any side quest involving her paints such a brilliant picture of Arthur Morgan. Like, I don't know if there is a way that you can actually get together with her. I don't think there is, but like, it's
I don't think so. I think maybe I'm wrong. Someone could correct me. I think it's a predestined sort of thing. But no, I agree. Their moments together are really good.
Yeah, and I will admit, like, so I've just kind of come across her like recently where I am in the game, and like that was a bit of a moment where I kind of noticed Arthur like growing on me even more, because like he shows a bit of emotion and stuff, you know, and he's changing a bit, like, my perception of him has changed a bit.
One other element, just before we move on from Arthur, I like that he's a very sympathetic man, but they don't shy away from how much of a arsehole he can be as well.
Yeah, that's really good, actually.
There's my favourite scene in the game is, I'm going to get some of these details wrong because it's a while since I played it. I think it's in the first town. You're just after doing a big job, and you're in a like, your spirits are high. You're like, you feel really good. You got a lot more money in the game than you've had before, and you're just about to leave the town, I think. But you have to go collect some debt from a house.
Yes, that's the exact bit I was thinking of. I
know
love
this one,
bit.
man.
And he says like the father, you had been there before, and the father has tuberculosis, and he dies eventually, and you threaten the wife and son.
Yeah.
And there's some really good line like, I'm gonna put your name in black in ledger book or something like that. He says this. He threatens the son anyway, and it's so, there's no like winking at the camera saying, oh, Arthur's actually a good guy. He just like straight up threatens some innocent people, and you don't feel good about it. It's a complete come down after the high of doing like the job in the town or whatever you did to get money. And that I wish there was a little bit more of that, if I'm being honest, but that was great.
Yeah,
because when I was doing those missions, I was thinking like, oh, they're going to give me an option surely to be nice or not, you know, and they don't.
It will come down the line that you can
you
can sort of try to redeem yourself in a way, but just to spoil this on you,
that's right.
Not too directly, but even if you are nice to them at the end, it doesn't feel like it justifies your actions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Actually, just those mission structures are another, like the relationship with Mary, it's another great way that they showcase his personality. And yeah, that mission, I'm so glad you brought it up. Even when I was watching it, I was thinking that is incredible, because like it contrasts so well with the previous missions where you're going to collect money, and at that point you're still in the mindset of like, oh, I'm just going around getting money, I'm a gunslinger, yeehaw. But this time it really shows the real life effects of like your actions, and it's just it's powerful stuff.
I want to move on to gameplay, but just before, one last point I'll make on story, and we'll probably come back to it anyway. I like, to its credit, I do think to that point that it released, it's probably one of the best narratives in an open world game. To me, it kind of feels almost like the same kind of narrative you'd find in a linear game, but it's actually an open world game. Like I'm talking about quality of like the story, the cutscenes, how everything flows. Like, well, okay, maybe not the pacing, but like, you know, it's like they really did kind of set like the bar again for open world stories, I think, because I mean, like, so their previous game was GTA 5, and I mean, I feel like that's a completely throwaway story in GTA 5, really, to be honest.
Well, there is a lot of it, but it's pretty messy in
exactly,
GTA 5,
it's not got the same quality, I think.
And the one flaw I would put at the story and writing is that the dialogue writing can sometimes just remind me of Grand Theft Auto in bad ways. It just got that sort of juvenile, sort of snarky thing sometimes, especially with, I loved, maybe this is something we'll get into later, I loved the camp and the gang, that like all those people. Dutch is an amazing character. His performance is great. Just, you completely get how charming and why people would follow him. But some of the other guys, like Micah, the baddie of the group, he was a bit
he's
one
not
note.
great.
Yeah.
So some of that, and we're going to have to eventually
Irish lad.
the Irish guy.
What's
yeah.
his name? Sean, isn't it?
Is it Sean?
I think it's Sean, yeah.
Typical
It's
Paddy
Sean,
name. He's better
Better
than
Irish though
Irish.
from the first game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a step up from Irish, but he's not much better, and he's like pretty. He's written to be annoying, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because I'm a Paddy that I felt. It stung me a little bit more or something, but he did annoy me a little bit. But sorry, I'm.
Oh, actually, one point, I think at one point in the game, you're on a mission with him to the Braithwaite's house or something, and he says he's from Donegal. And
Yeah, he does, yeah.
But his accent is like not
it's a
Donegal
Dublin,
at all.
He's a Dublin accent.
Yeah.
I didn't expect any more from the game, if I'm being honest. The fact that they actually got an Irish voice actor was a plus.
Yeah, true.
me.
Yeah.
But even you think he would say, like, actually, guys, this sounds nothing like a Donegal accent, you know?
Yeah.
But what can you do? He's
just
probably just
happy to be
happy.
there.
Yeah, just happy to be involved.
That's how it be.
It do be like that sometimes. Moving on to gameplay mechanics and stuff. So this, I feel, is probably, I'm not alone in that. I'm probably not alone in feeling that this might be a point of contention for some people. And by that, what I'm specifically talking about is Arthur's movement and stuff.
Yeah, that seems to be.
On one side, right, for anyone who doesn't know, like all of Arthur's movements in the game are extremely realistic, whether that's picking up something off the ground or looting a body, or just the way he inspecting a gun is actually a really good thing. So you can clean your weapons in the game, and like he'll take it off his back, he'll like put it in his hands, he'll like flip it around and look at it in different ways. And this kind of the same happens with like items you pick up. You can like look at them and turn them around and all that kind of stuff. I know games have done that kind of thing before, but just the way the character interacts with the objects and stuff, I think is like really. It just adds so much to the immersion.
I don't think maybe the only exception would be the only time I've ever seen a game that does it as realistically and with as much detail is like The Last of Us 2, and that's obviously a smaller, more linear game. Technically the work that they put in is absolutely stellar. Like the gun animations in themselves, his movement and moving around is amazing. The detail on the guns themselves, the fact that like you can clean them, so there's like dirt models that they had to make for each individual gun is absolutely insane. But I think where you're sorry, I've interrupted your point.
No, you're fine. Yeah, but like, even just walking up steps and stuff is like, that's always a tricky thing in games. It's done really well here. But the one thing I'll say is that all these animations and stuff take an extremely long time to execute. I think the main one that would annoy, if I had to pick one that's the most annoying, it's looting bodies, because he literally like gets down on the ground, he flips the body over if it's on the wrong side. He opens their jackets and all that, and it's like, dude, I just want to pick up the ammo and go, especially if you're in the middle of a shootout or something. And I like, now that I'm like so ever many hours through, I do think it's a detriment. I think what would have been perfect is if they introduce all this stuff at the beginning, but then there's like an option in the menu to cancel animations or like skip them or something. Like just.
I was just gonna say, that's exactly what they should have done.
Yeah, because it and this is kind of getting back to what I was talking about with where the gameplay impacts the story pacing and stuff. It really slows things down. So like, I kind of fell out of the game a while ago because it took so long to do missions and stuff. I would find often that like missions aren't normally like one part. There's usually several sections to them. So I would find that I'm spending an hour maybe just doing one mission to get to a place, to like go through the cutscenes, do all that stuff. It would probably take me like the bones of an hour to do one mission. And, for people who are, working and stuff like that, it's kind of like a huge commitment in the evenings to be like, okay, cool, let's spend the next hour just doing one mission. And you feel like I'm not really progressing that far and stuff. So it would have been really nice, I think, if they gave us an option to speed those up or skip them, because even though they're great if you want that immersion and stuff, like they really do immerse you in the world, but yeah, they just make it really sluggish for me. Even last thing I want to say, your horse movement, so I think it's definitely a step up from the first game. Like the way the horses move and all that is brilliant.
The testicles.
Yeah, the testicles. But actually, even Arthur's movement as well. So I'm in Saint Denis at the moment, which is a big city in the game, and the streets are really narrow. And one thing I found, like there was really funny. I wish I got a clip of it, but I was like going to jump on my horse, and I think like maybe I'm pressed the wrong button or something, but instead of getting on my horse, I just like jumped on a fella beside the horse, and then he was like, "What the hell?" And then the cops were after me, and it was, man, the police in this game, it's so annoying to get, like, if you're wanted, like you can't go into a shop or anything, and that's a whole other thing, but I think, like, in their kind of quest for immersion and realism, it kind of hampers the fun aspect of the gameplay. So, anyway, what are your thoughts on it?
I can feel Steve
He's
taking
burning,
a deep breath, about to, like, fucking rap battle this fucking mechanics.
It's funny. No, it's funny though, because like this is the kind of thing that I typically would be like very angry about, but actually a lot of the time if something sacrifices immersion, I'd be very much like against it. So for the most part, I didn't have as big a problem over this. Like occasionally I think like, oh, I wish you could move a little faster, yada yada yada. Like you, Sean, the biggest bugbear I have is with looting bodies, and I do think they should have had an option to do that. Yeah. Actually, another game which I really not a fan of, but had a very elegant solution to this. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword had this weird thing it used to do, where when it opens a chest, when they open a chest or something, you'd pick up like an item, and then they'd have an item description saying, you got like 20 rupees. This is like, can be used, blah, blah, blah. And then, but every time you booted up the game, it would show you that once, and then after that, it would never show you again.
Yeah.
So they could have done something like that here, I think, where if you looted a body, you show them doing it once, and then you can just like have an option thing showing up saying, do you want to do this every time? And I'm sure we'd all like mash that no button so hard. But it's a weird, because like I always like shorter games. I'm pretty sure you guys, generally speaking, do as well. But this one, it's the animation aspect of it and all the actions and gestures you can do, they don't bother me as much. It's more just the sheer density of things that are in the game that bother me more than that.
It's a weird criticism to have, because it's great value for money, but I don't think I don't have that mindset anyway when I'm going into a game. I'm like, oh, I've paid 60 quid for this, so I need X amount of hours out of it. Yeah. There's only been like a handful of occasions where a game finished too early for me, and I'm like, what? Like Rage, the first Rage game, like finished, and that's because it ended on a weird cliffhanger as well. But yeah, it's definitely something that's cropping up, and I'm playing Elden Ring at the moment, and it's sort of cropping up there as well. Maybe to a lesser extent because I'm having a lot of fun in Elden Ring. Like moment to moment fun, whereas I think the mechanics do add to your sense of fatigue with the length of the game in a way, because you're sort of like, I'm not going to be able to blast through this. I can see like I haven't got half of the map opened up yet, and I'm already getting a bit burnt out. And like definitely towards the end, like, and I remember in the first game I used to do all the stranger missions and all the hunting and stuff like that. I had no desire to do it in this one.
I was just going to say that I remember you telling me that ages ago when you completed the game, and I thought like, oh no, I love doing everything, I want to do it. Now I've abandoned that as well. Yeah. I may be doing the odd stranger, but now I'm just like main missions all the way because I want to get through it. But that like what you're saying, I think with open world games in general, like they can be, if you've got loads of side content and stuff to do, then you can say like, oh yeah, full completion takes 80 hours or whatever, you know. But if the main story, if you can kind of keep that to like 20 to 30, I think that's plenty for a main story. And that way people can decide what they want to do. You can complete the main story and then go back and do all the side stuff if you want, you know.
It's a funny thing, this though, like, because it kind of, in some weird sort of way, it does cater to two very different kinds of players, because like you were saying there, Michael, how oh yeah, I paid £60 for this, I should get X amount of hours. If you're the kind of gamer who literally just wants 1 or 2 games, and like there's plenty of them out there, I haven't met many of them, but like
no, that's true though.
If you're just going for the one game, incredible value for money. This game is absolutely insane. It would last you such a long time. But the other thing is, right, even if you're not that kind of gamer, which I don't think any of us are, a lot of these activities, they go to great lengths to contribute towards the atmosphere and the story and just the general vibe that the game is going for. So in a way, it's still quite beneficial. Like, you don't have to do any of these activities, but they're nice that they're there.
Yeah.
Like, I think I played all of the mini games once because there's a trophy you can get for it, but I can't imagine at any point jumping into Red Dead Redemption thinking, oh yes, time to play some blackjack.
Yeah. Man,
who does that?
Sorry to cut across you, but I loved that in the first game. Like, once I had it all completed and stuff, but I still wanted to play. Like, I loved playing poker and blackjack and stuff in it. It was actually really fun.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
Or what was the dice game called?
Not Devil's
Liar's Dice.
Liar's Dice, yeah, that was really cool. But one thing I will say, the stranger missions in Red Dead, and this goes for the first game too, are still some of the best side missions I think in any game.
Yeah. And some of the
unique,
the random missions in Red Dead 2 were really good. You know, the way on the side of the road, like at points they got annoying because I'm like, I know you're just going to jump in that.
I'm just going to skip this. Yeah.
But I had a really cool moment in it that would only happen in a game like this, is where I had unlocked the swamp area, and I hadn't got to Saint Denis yet. Saint Denis was quite far from where I was, but I did some other mission that brought me to like a hut that was like only a couple of miles away from Saint Denis, and I encountered one of those random missions where a guy was like, he had been shot or something, or he just needed help, and he was like, bring me to a doctor. So I got him and brought him to a doctor in Saint Denis, and I went in and the city was like, it was real foggy and it was nighttime and the city lights were on and it looked really cool. And I didn't even know Saint Denis existed at this point.
That's cool.
So that was a cool organic way. Like, it didn't seem like the game was pointing me towards there, because story-wise, I got there like hours later. But it was just a really cool organic way to be introduced to like a new area.
I feel like I might have done that same one or something similar, because no.
Maybe it wasn't as unique as I thought.
No, well, obviously it's not going to be like different for every person. But because I ended up in Saint Denis as well before I was supposed to for some mission reason. But yeah, it was really cool.
Did either of you guys do the mission where like the inventor guy has the little boat and you have to like that's such a weird, like, it's typical comedy rock star kind of stuff. It's just odd.
It reminded me of the RC missions in GTA basically. But I don't know, it was kind of cool. It was a bit different, I guess, from everything else you're doing.
like that they can get a little weirder with those stranger things. Sometimes they are a bit like they don't tie in as well to the time period. There's one, or the mood. There's one, I'm not sure if he's done it. It's where you try, there's some inventor guy, maybe it's the same guy, and he wants to make like a Frankenstein's monster, and you are trying to help, or like make a robot or something like that. Yeah, and it's a bit sci-fi and stupid, and it's very like, it clashes with the rest of the game, which like we have all this like gritty realism that they're aiming for. But yeah, sometimes that didn't flow as well.
Yeah, I think with this game in particular, the main selling point it has, like, it's like, we're talking about gameplay now, but there's not a lot of stellar gameplay in this game. Like, I think more than anything else, they're selling a mood, and that's like the key thing. They have that, there's a great bit where you have to clear out a house. It's the house that you end up moving into, and it's like, it's a real horror kind of sensation you get there. And like, I was getting strong Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes at that point, and it's incredible that they can include that in a game like this, which is typically a bit of like a, just tale about the Old West. And at the same time, they also have, I was trying hard not to say a certain word at that point. Last thing that I think we have to talk about before we continue is, and this stands to my point as well, how it's selling a mood, is there's a very early mission where all you have to do is go to a bar and drink.
Yeah.
Do you remember this one?
That's a great mission, actually.
And it's a great mission, but like, what do you do there? Like, nothing really. You just watch some interactive cutscenes.
Yeah, mechanically, a lot of the missions, like I'd say that's actually one of the funner ones because at least you're doing something different. But like, so many of them boil down to I'm going to ride to this place and have a conversation with someone. And the conversations are great and getting to know the different members of the camp. That's great. But then it's the same thing. You go there, you do a shootout, you follow someone, you go back. There's only ever one way to complete the mission. You can't like use stealth or anything like that. Like it's just like, and not that I want Red Dead 2 to be a stealth game, but you know, there are points, especially with the length of the game where it gets a bit repetitive.
One thing I wanted to bring up as well is, what did you guys think of the shooting in the game? Because I actually found, and I think maybe this comes down to the animation stuff, I found it a bit more sluggish than like obviously the game as a whole was slower paced, or you know, movement and all that was slower than the first game. But I think it was a real detriment to the shooting. I didn't enjoy shootouts and stuff in this game, as like in the first game, loved all that stuff. You know, really got into the shootouts and stuff, but not in this one.
You're completely right. It's the chasing realism sort of thing. Like the first one is surprisingly arcadey in its shooting. And this one, it just doesn't, and it doesn't feel as good because like things are a bit more realistic and grounded, and it's not like, and if they're going for that mood, that's great, but it doesn't tie into the Western fantasy part of it as well, you know. Sorry, one thing, like we haven't even mentioned, this is an amazing looking game. Like it's absolutely incredible looking. Sorry, I probably jumped ahead there. But one thing, I'm not sure if he's noticed, but the photo mode in it is really good, and there's some like digital photography, virtual photography competition that some festival put on, and a screenshot from the photo mode in Red Dead 2 won the competition.
Wow, I'm not surprised.
That's insane.
When I'm editing the video, I'll throw it up here. But yeah, I've seen amazing stuff, really realistic looking and like well framed stuff from the photo mode in this game.
To tell you a little story, right? So the TV that I have now, another guy owned it, and he was like asking me if I wanted to buy it from him. And I was like, I'm not sure, like I don't really need a TV, like is it good? He's like, yeah, come on up, have a look at it. So he showed me, and the way he showed off how good it was by playing Red Dead 2. And I was like, holy shit, man, that looks incredible. Yeah, I'll buy it. So like Red Dead 2 convinced me to buy a new TV. So that'll give you an idea of how good it is.
I was going to just get on to, I suppose my next thing I want to talk about was the legacy of the game. And one thing is, like, graphically, it came out in 2018, but it still looks absolutely amazing.
It's up there. It's not going to age badly. No. I think even when games are getting more realistic, like just it actually it blew my mind when I first got it. To be honest, how they did it. It's just a lot of people doing a lot of hard work and a lot of money.
Actually, just on that, when I was doing research for it and stuff, like I think. There was about 2,000 people that worked on this game across all Rockstar Studios, which is crazy.
The amount of fine detail as well, like obviously on like a wide macro sense, like the mountains, the trees, the vistas all look amazing.
Yeah.
And especially the day-night cycle, I think looks really good. Like at night when you got all the stars and all, like it looks incredible. But just like the really fine details. When you go into a shop and you can see all the items on the counter, and you have the book that you flip, and it's like
that's
crazy
so cool.
amount of detail in it. Like that's incredible.
Sorry, one thing kind of tangent, but one thing I love as well, a nice detail in the game, is whenever you load back into it, Arthur will be like just kind of sitting somewhere, or you know, he'll be somewhere else from where you left the game, and he'll just be like leaning up against something or smoking a cigarette or something,
finishing a conversation with someone. I'll see you later, bye bye.
Yeah, and it's really cool how you get that sense of like, oh yeah, like the world has moved on without you in a way, and now you're just coming back to it. It's just a really nice addition to it.
I think nothing actually sells this as well as the fact that there's a cinematic camera that you can use. Yeah, like that's something that was actually a bit of a sticking point, but makes a lot of sense to me now as I'm playing it, because you know this so much goes against the grain of your typical like high octane action games. Like you couldn't have a cinematic camera in Devil May Cry or something like that. That would never work. But in this, you can literally click on a button that lets you do the bare minimum amount of work and just like lets you watch how beautiful it looks, and that tells you exactly what kind of game this is.
Yeah, totally. I think it's like, as far as like a game goes, I don't know if it's a great game. But it's like a piece of art, though.
That's
do you know
the
what I
fucking
mean?
thesis statement there.
And I
That's
know
like,
games are technically art,
but like not
yeah.
even the arting, just like as a game, but as an experience.
An experience, yeah, that's a better way of putting it. Like, I think it's a game everybody should play at some point, even if you haven't played the first one, really. But yeah, it's not something I could really recommend as like, oh, do you have a fun thing I could play? Like, I don't know if you'd have fun playing.
It's like recommending a 10-season-long TV series to someone. It's like, this is really good. The first season isn't great, but once you get into the second season, it's really good. Just invest the time into it.
Or even just like one of those extremely long movies that everyone... It's like saying like, hey, you've never seen Apocalypse Now? Go watch Apocalypse Now. It's, oh, do you think I'll like it? Yeah, but like you won't like it. Like
Apocalypse Now is a great film.
I know, but like imagine trying to sell Apocalypse Now to someone who just like watches romantic comedies and stuff. Is like, because like you're looking for a fun time, so like that's not a fun time film.
Definitely not. No.
I'd actually say that Adam Sandler one is a good example. What's
Uncut
that?
Gems.
Uncut Gems. I'd be like, that's an amazing film. Do you think I should watch it? No, it's like the most anxiety-inducing thing I've ever seen.
It's so crazy. Sorry, that's a tangent, but that's watching that film is a trip. Like,
I'm not sure I want to watch it again.
No,
but
I
it's
don't
amazing.
think so. Yeah. Anyway, back to Red Dead. I'm kind of getting to rounding this out now. Like just before we move on to its like the Metacritic score, does it deserve its place and stuff? Like just more on the legacy. Do you guys think like what has this influenced in terms of gaming? And also because one thing I did think playing through it is, in terms of gameplay and stuff, which we've kind of already bashed a bit, but I don't really think it innovated a lot of ways in that, you know. I think the only ways it really innovated is in graphic fidelity for open worlds and also like maybe narrative in open world games. But yeah, like what do you guys think has it had, what's its lasting legacy, I guess, or its impact on the industry?
I think it's... It doesn't. Its legacy is that open world games have gone in the opposite direction in terms of how the player interacts with the world and how it's not a user friendly game, and that's something I think we touched on with GTA 4 as well. Yeah, and it's funny that these are the highest Rockstar games because they are the least fun in inverted commas to play, But I do, and I think I said the same thing with GTA 4, that I respect Rockstar were like, no, this is the experience we want. We could make it easier to loot. Yeah. We could make the shooting more arcadey, but we want this experience for good or bad. I feel like games are going in a different direction. I feel like playing Elden Ring, that's the most user-friendly From Software game ever made, I'd say. It's really, like, anyone can play Elden Ring. Like, you can loot bodies... from the back of your horse without stopping, you know.
That's incredible. Yeah.
So like it doesn't want you to have downtime. It wants you to dictate the pace that you go throughout the game, and I love that, and I feel like designers are moving that in that direction. They don't want these annoyances, and that's brilliant. But maybe do you lose something in that? I love Elden Ring. I love Breath of the Wild. I love all these really accessible open world games, but they don't. Do they have to give you the same experience that something like Red Dead does? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it is a different experience. It's like Red Dead 2 is almost an experiment in a way on like you know, that kind of formula for an open world game. Whereas like it's the same kind of pace and stuff you would expect from like a game like The Last of Us or something.
Yes, yeah.
But in a huge open world game that's got so much to do. And it's gonna end up in taking you ages to do it all because of the way it's paced and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely a place for that kind of game, but I don't know if it would be the way other developers go because of how sluggish it feels.
Sorry, one thing I just realised that. Sorry to cut across you, Steve. The new Horizon game when it came out, what's it called? Forbidden West.
Forbidden West. Yeah.
When that came out, you couldn't loot quickly.
Really?
Or like when you were like picking resources like flowers or rocks or whatever off the ground. I don't know what they are in that game, moon gems. But it was quite slow. I think you had to hold a button for like 2 seconds, and everyone hated it. So they patched that out, and now you can do it really quickly. So I think that is as emblematic of the way people want their open world games to be now.
Well, yeah, in any game really where, and not that you have to do like grind in Red Dead 2, but in any game where you need to collect resources and gather stuff like that, like nobody wants to like make that as quick as possible. Do you know?
Don't want Arthur to kneel down and get out his knife and then pick the flowers and then put it in his bag and wrap up the bag.
Yeah, that's another good example actually. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Steve, did you have a point on that?
Yes, Sean. I do. Yeah, no. I think you have summed it up really, really well. Just in that it is a worthwhile experience. I think the main thing to take away from it is that I personally don't want every open world game to be like this, but I'm perfectly happy for experiences like this to exist. Like, I give you an example, like an open world game that I really like is Far Cry 3, which I think is an excellent game. I have a lot of fun playing. I think Red Dead 2 is a much better main game. It's an incredible feat. Like, I think it's easily like got, I don't know if this is a weird sentence, but twice as much quality. It's got like a lot. It's you know, like it's an incredible feat what they've done in terms of like storytelling, and that's the main thing I think that this contributes in terms of legacy. Just the way they've constructed an open world story-driven experience that like almost every facet of the story is interwoven into how the game plays, sometimes to the game's detriment, but that it's still consistent the whole way through. Like, everything is done kind of slow and makes you feel kind of bad, and there's probably some parallels to The Last of Us Part 2, I'd say, there, because I've heard that does a similar sort of thing. So maybe that's where we can see how some of the influence of this game has impacted future games. But I'm happy it's here, but I don't want that kind of thing to take place in Donkey Konga 3, basically.
Yeah. He did it. He fucking... I was like, he'd never get into this game, but no, he did it. Donkey Konga referenced again.
Just the last point I'll make before we go to the score review. Do you think there'll be a third game? And this is coming from someone who hasn't finished this, but this is a prequel. So
it's sort of like, what can they do? Like, it's not like... 2 covered any ground that 1 didn't. Like, they are, like, we've talked about the differences between them, but like there's not like a different era of Western that they can cover. Like, they've both sort of been set in a time period where the Western is sort of ending, and you can feel the industry and modernization of America starting, and like those sort of aspects it does really well. I think that sort of changing world, but. Is there, like, I think it'd be better for that team to make a different time period game, like I don't know, gangsters, 1940s mafia style game, or well, that's been done by Mafia, I guess.
Well, maybe like just a spin off, like, because I'm just saying because like Red Dead is probably Rockstar's second biggest franchise after GTA, so I imagine they'd probably want to keep it going, and like maybe they could do a spin off with different characters or something around the same time.
Do you know? I'd say the one reason they probably won't make another one is that Red Dead Online is not in any way as popular as GTA true. Online. So.
We mentioned it. No, that's a good point. Yeah.
Did you play it at all? Actually, Red Dead Online.
I played it in the first game because that's when it originally like was a thing, and I played a bit of it on that, and I think that was more popular. But that was around the same time, like, so GTA Online started in GTA 4. But Red Dead Online came before that? After that. Okay, yeah. But basically, the whole online experience of Rockstar games kind of grew together with Red Dead and GTA. So I think there was a point where they were kind of level in popularity, but Red Dead kind of fell off then. GTA is definitely the king there. So
it's a really, really odd online. I only played for about like 3 or 4 hours just like to see what it was like. It's such an odd experience because almost every online game has like a really clear goal in mind, but Red Dead Online seems to be kind of split in two in terms of what it wants to do. So they have the typical thing where you just have tons of shootouts. Like you'll have so many, like there's these signs all over the place that if you look at, say, do you want to join a matchmaking thing? It's like, yeah, sure. And you'll just join like almost unlimited like shootouts. And that's got the very typical Call of Duty kind of vibe to it. But the gameplay doesn't complement that at all, so it feels horrible. I was playing it and thinking this is terrible, but they have this other online aspect that I think would work really well, but again you'd need to invest in it. Like you can take these roles and just like fulfill those roles. Like you can be a moonshiner, you can be like a naturalist, or no, sorry, survivalist, where you're like hunting down the animals. You can be a bounty hunter. All these roles, and like I was trying to be like a survivalist where I was shooting down or like hunting down all the really difficult to find animals, and I'm like, this could work really, really well, but it's it's again, that's almost like a one player experience. Like what's the point of being online for that bit,
that's
know?
true. It does sound cool, like putting more of a focus on the hunting or bounty hunting or something like that, but like what benefit is there to have another person there? You could just make like a co-op game, like having loads of random people like fucking up your hunting, you know, like scaring away the birds or something like crap.
I guess
maybe it's maybe you can tell me, Steve, if it's the same as like the first one, because in the first one when I played it, it was basically like you were in the same map and it was an open world thing. You could go and do whatever you wanted, but you could join a posse as well and have like friends with you in that posse, and then you guys could like do missions, like specific online missions together that you had to do with other people and stuff like that.
Yeah, they had posses in it, but I think they were locked off from me. So I think you have to play for a certain amount of time or raise a certain amount of money before you can actually start a posse.
I think you have to get to a certain level or something.
Yeah, it seemed. I mean, if you're into online gaming, I was kind of sort of intrigued by it, but not enough to go back to it. So
yeah.
Posse is a funny word.
It is.
It sure is.
So right, I think to close this out, really, does Red Dead Redemption 2 deserve its place on the Metacritic scoreboard at number 8?
Do you know?
It's also just a quick factoid. It's also the most recent game that we've reviewed that's on the Metacritic list.
Yeah. So, that's true. It's 2018, isn't it?
And I think it's the first Xbox One game as well. But
I personally think it does deserve a high place on the list. It's a weird one. I guess I could sum up my thoughts in being, I'm really glad I played it. I never want to play it again. It's definitely an experience that you enjoy more in retrospect, but when you're in the middle of it, it's sort of like a bit of a slog. So as like a technical achievement, I'm not sure there's been a more ambitious or like just well constructed world in a game, and that's amazing. And it stands as like a high watermark for that in like any game, and especially open world games. But yeah, as a game itself, I don't know. So yes, it's a soft yes for me.
I think right now it does, but I do think it'll be dethroned because there's going to be better experiences that eventually come along and do the same things but maybe fix a lot of the issues with it and stuff. I would still put the first game higher, I think, because it was more because it was more groundbreaking at the time. It was like that was a huge thing when the first game came out. It was unlike anything really that had been out at that time. Whereas 2, I think, was like there was a lot of hype for it because the first game was so successful. And there was like such a big gap between them, like 8 years as well. So I think, but I think by the time 2 came out, even though it's such a technical achievement and it's an amazing game, it wasn't as groundbreaking. So I don't know. I think it deserves to be high, and it's probably deserves where it is now. But I think it will move down the list eventually. Steve?
I probably wouldn't rate it that high. I mean, I would rate it highly, but I don't think it should be where it is right now, just because of the accessibility thing. This isn't a game that I can see, unless you already knew you wanted to play this, I don't think I could recommend this to many people.
All right.
Whereas there's so many great games I say, play this, you'll love it. There's so many games like that. And it's funny though, actually, what you said there, Sean, because like I prefer the first one as well, but I do think this is the better game, which is like, I think the first game is a lot more fun to play, but I what's the word I'm looking for? I'm more impressed with this game.
Okay.
This game impresses me a lot more. Like I think it's better put together. But like you said, like the first game has plenty of jankiness, but like you said, Michael, it's a more arcadey experience. Like it's funny you said that like the first game you feel like it's like more revolutionary, it did a lot more. I would actually disagree. I think this game, like the second one, was way more revolutionary than the first one, because like and tell me if I'm wrong, because this isn't my stable at all, but
stable, good one.
See, but I didn't say cowboy.
Oh, we were right at the end.
Sorry. For his sake.
Remember the band.
Yeah, I feel like the first game, other than the setting, I don't think it does a lot that Grand Theft Auto didn't do. Like,
but what does Red Dead 2 do that Red Dead 1 didn't?
Like the way the story weaves into like every aspect of the gameplay. Like, so like,
that's true. Yeah.
It's really impressive, like how they managed to make you feel certain story beats at the correct moments in an open world game. And like you can't deny it, there's plenty of moments in it where you're like, oh, at this point I started to feel this way, I grew to like Arthur Morgan more. And like, this is in one of the biggest open world games ever, but it still managed to make you feel that way. So like as a storytelling achievement, I think this is a lot more impressive.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I don't know. I think
made.
I think Red Dead 1 had a lot of those moments as well. Crossing into Mexico, like nobody can put
amazing.
that down, man. It's
Apart from
Name one other moment.
Going to Armadillo for the first time was pretty big as well.
I think returning to your family.
Yes.
It was a really good one.
And the end of the game as well.
And the ending, of course. The ending is really good. Okay, so there's a few. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Fun fact, I'm not sure I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I fucked up the Mexico thing in Red Dead 1. So I got there to the point, and I heard, there's an amazing moment when you get there, and they gave me a horse. And you're meant to ride the horse to the next point, and then the Jose Gonzalez song plays. But I didn't like that horse because it was different than the one I had, so I got off that horse immediately, called my own horse, and no song played.
Oh,
no song played. And I was like,
that's kind of annoying. That's a bad mechanic.
And I was like, I thought there was meant to be a cool song here or something. I can't hear anything.
That's hilarious.
Actually,
we didn't even mention the music in the second game. Actually, yeah, because it's incredible.
There's not a lot to say in terms of the music was amazing in the first game, and it's equally amazing in the second game.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think
sure.
so.
Like, it's just really well made. Like,
yeah, I think for me, again, like it hasn't grabbed me in the second game. Again, the same way it did in the first. I think it's just as good, but I think it's kind of like, it's more of what I already know in a way. Do you know what I mean? So, that's just me comparing it again to the first. But yeah.
The only thing I will say about the music is there's a bit that you haven't got to yet, Sean, so I won't spoil it, but you learn new information about Arthur Morgan in the second half of the game.
Ooh.
And the music changes to reflect that.
Oh, okay.
In a very subtle but effective way.
Cool. Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
Just one point. I didn't know where to say this, actually. I only just remembered it, and I'm just going to shoehorn it in here, so feel free to edit this out.
Is it about Donkey Konga? I've already done it. It's fine.
You've already ticked that box. There's a part, I'm not sure you've gotten to it, Sean, where you go to a different area, and it's not connected to the main map. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to spoil anything more about it, but it's definitely the worst part of the game.
Oh, yes. Really?
And it's like a good chunk. It's like 2 to 3 hours you spend in this area, and it's really well made, and it's a beautiful environment, and there's lots of story, but it's shit, and it sort of didn't need to happen.
Like gameplay wise, it's shit, or
it's just annoying, really, and it's a diversion when you're already like, I'm so long in this game. I have to do this shit now.
Right? Okay.
It actually kind of goes against the tone of the game a little bit as well. Like, it kind of messes up the story a little bit, messes up the tempo. Like, it's the kind of thing I think that entire segment could have been summarized in a cutscene. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that sort of thing. It's bloat is the worst thing about this game, definitely.
Oh,
Right.
and incidentally, Sean, I did, when you told me where you were in Saint Denis, I thought that this place was Saint Denis, so you're actually not as far as I thought you were.
Oh,
sorry.
right, yeah. No,
You're around halfway through the game. I think,
The mansion that you were talking about that you clear out, that's where I am now, isn't it? Yeah, the house outside Saint Denis.
Yeah.
Where,
Yeah,
where your
yeah.
camp is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sick.
Yeah, so I guess I'll throw it over to Michael to announce what will be coming up next on the list.
So occupying slots 9 and 10, so we're rounding out the top 10, will be Grand Theft Auto V, or 5 as it's more commonly known. So yeah, another bloody Rockstar game. Yeah, that's
Yay.
how many slots?
And
5
actually-
slots in the no 6 slots in the top 10 are no 5 slots in the top 10 are Rockstar games.
Sure are a lot of slots on Metacritic.
Steve. That is the worst. That is the worst thing ever. Sean's just counting in the background here.
No,
so,
yeah,
you know.
As you do.
I was just having a look that 18 games, including Red Dead Redemption 2 and the 2 Super Marios that we did, are all tied. So they're all 97.
There's lots of 97. Yeah, it's a bit of a
I guess there's
arbitrary thing. Where,
I guess there's only like the score only goes to 100, so there's going to be lots of ties in this.
and there's no decimal points on it either. But yeah, we will be covering Grand Theft Auto V5 in the next episode.
Yeah, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.